Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday. Woo! And tonight is Worship and Wellness. If you are just joining us, Worship and Wellness has been amazing all week. We are celebrating wellness this week. This is Worship and Wellness Week. So I am Pastor Tanya. I am so excited that you are here with us tonight. I see these numbers are coming in. You're coming in. Come on in the room. We have been having an amazing time. Monday, we talked about spiritual wellness. And yesterday, we had a great time talking about emotional wellness. And tonight, we are going to be talking about intellectual wellness. You might say, well, what is intellectual wellness? Well, just stay around. Stay around so we can have this conversation. We're going to be talking about, work, employment, self-employment, entrepreneurship. We have some amazing guests. So I want to greet you. So if you're in the room, please make sure you make a chat. Just say, I'm here. Good evening. I'm here. I see you liking, but I want to know who's here. All right. So with no further delay, I'm going to start to bring in my guests because I want to make sure that we have enough time to communicate. So the first person that I'm going to bring in the room is Mr. Dwayne Pat Jr. Hey, sir. How are you? You're muted, so make sure you unmute.
Hello. How are you today?
I am doing well, Mr. Dwayne. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. No complaints. I'm excited to be here, excited to join you guys tonight and just kind of talk about my journey. Different things that I'm doing when it comes to my life and kind of business oriented.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear about it. And I cannot say enough about our next guest. We know him. One thing I can tell you, he does not let any grass grow under his feet when it comes down to the area of business. That is none other than Apostle Craig Coates.
Hello.
Hi, Apostle. How are you this evening?
I am absolutely wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. So glad that you're able to join us this evening as we have this wonderful conversation.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I mean, oftentimes most people look to you and usually they have you either preaching or teaching on, biblical things. But I wanted to highlight you from the perspective of the businessman that you also are.
Thank you so very much.
So many things that, we can learn from you. So I'm excited that you are on this evening. Hi, Karen. Thank you for joining. So glad that you're here this evening. Again, if you are joining, please type in that you're here. I'd love to shout you out, as well as make sure you share this. Somebody maybe be thinking about starting a business, maybe writing a book, maybe, starting a new job, feeling really stressed out at the job that they're at. Tag them, have them join us tonight. Let's talk about it. Also, good evening, Deborah Colby. If you're joining in this evening, make sure that you share. Again, sharing, we believe sharing is caring. So share, because you never know who you might be able to affect. So let's jump into this thing. This is definitely a free-flowing conversation, but I'd love to, if you can start with some introduction, Dwayne, and then Apostle Coach, share a little bit about who you are, and Dwayne, who you are and what you currently are doing and what your business is.
Okay, so hello everyone. I hope you're having a great evening. I hope you're having a great week. My name is Dwayne Pate, and I just have I like to kind of brand myself as these core things. I'm a podcaster, mental health therapist, entrepreneur. I'm purpose driven, and I'm family focused. And those are like my core things that really describe me as far as who I am as a person, and also the many different the areas that I cover. When it comes to being a podcaster, I have a podcast that I started over a year ago called Unapologetically Black Male, where we talk about surviving the stigma, standards, and systems. I'm a mental health therapist by trade. That's my full-time job. I serve, individuals from elementary school up into, married couples. So I have a wider range of clients in that way. I'm also an entrepreneur. I have two businesses. One of them is called Forward. And that's my, that's the LLC, which I kind of do my consulting, my therapy work, and also have some apparel that is under that. And I also have Pay Enterprises, which is where I do rental cars, where I rent cars, and my goal is to kind of expand to do some real estate and some different things like that. And purpose driven, a little bit about me. I'm an ordained minister. I served as my executive minister at the Greater Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church in Baltimore, Maryland, where my pastor is Dr. Reginald Thomas. So, that is part of my purpose. That is part of who I am. I've been called to serve people, and I've served in many capacities through outreach efforts and different things in that capacity. And that's my purpose. My purpose here is to serve God and live according to his plan and his purpose for my life. And all of these things make up me. And the most important thing, which I always, you save the best for last, is I'm family focused. I'm a husband. It'll be 15 years in December, this upcoming December. My wife I'm married to Dr. Courtney Pate. We met in high school. She's like my high school sweetheart. So we've been together for 15 years. Well, we've been married for 15 years, been together for about 17. And we have 4 beautiful children, all under the age of 10. Now, if you know about having children, I just need your prayers because I got 4 children under 10. So it's 10, 8, 4, and 1. So, I'm very busy, and, my household is very busy. So we could talk about, so we'll definitely touch on how to balance all the things, because I have so many, I believe God gives me so many things and so many ideas that, sometimes it's too much, but I enjoy it because it keeps me busy and it keeps me on my toes and kind of learn different things. So that's a little bit about me, and then we'll kind of get into some more questions later.
That's some good stuff. You done laid a whole lot of foundation for us to talk about tonight. So I so appreciate it. And I love the fact that you said that God gives you a lot, and keeps you on your toes. But I'm a firm believer that God gives, there's a measure, right? And he knows who to give what measures to. So sometimes people will say, you're doing too much. And, then some people say, well, you're doing too little. But the truth of the matter is God knows who can handle what. Absolutely. And so therefore, we have a big God. So he gives us big things because the desire is that it gets done. So I appreciate you being on tonight. And then Apostle Coates.
Hello.
Tell us about you. Tell us about who you are, what you do, for those that are watching that may not be from Fresh Start, how, where, what your connections are and your businesses.
Sure. Okay. So hi, I'm Craig Coates. I am senior pastor at Fresh Start Church. I've been pastoring almost 29 years. I'm actually the apostle overseeing the work of pastors, not just at Fresh Start, but several churches in our organization called Triumphant Church Assemblies. I am a husband, coming up on 10 years in May. And my wife, Cherie, and I, we have a son and a daughter. My daughter, Olivia, is 6. My son, Ian, is 4.5, going on 44. So Dwayne, you can add me to the prayer list. I need the prayers too. I love being a husband and father. And I'm an entrepreneur. So I don't just pastor the church, but I oversee, run, and have my hand in either directly or indirectly owning 5 companies. I love everything that I do. I know I'm called to everything I'm doing, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It keeps me thriving and surviving, all of that. So I am a teacher, lecturer, author. I've written 3 books, working on a 4th book, several PhDs, and my expertise is really ministry and business kind of combination, because I think they go hand in hand. A lot of the same principles. So that's me.
That's so awesome. Thank you, sir. I love it. It's wonderful when you can see men taking the lead in business, in what we're talking about. So often, you have a lot of women, and I got this business and I'm doing this and I'm that, but there is something that when there is the man that is leading by example, I think speaks volumes. So let's get into this conversation. And first let me address. Hi, Brandy. We have Brandy from AAWDC. I hope we can get you guys next time. I'm going to pull you on specifically. They were supposed to be on this evening, but wasn't sure the flow. So we'll get them back to have a conversation. Tanya Harris is on. Good evening. She said, hey, Mr. Dwayne's with the Pastor PS. Bill Freeman is on. Good evening, Bill Freeman. And Shanta Williams, good evening. Says, good evening, FSC. She said, a lot of powerhouse on the Zoom tonight. Yes, powerhouse. So let's kind of chat. I want to start from a word that was mentioned, balance, right? Before we even just, I want to work from entrepreneurship or doing a lot and balance. We find so often that either people are burnt out. They feel like they're doing too much. Dwayne, you referenced it. I have children. I got work. I'm married. I got to do that. If you have your own business, there's that piece. What does balance mean to you? How does that play out? And then also add the fact, especially for the two of you being the heads of your house, or the man in your home, regulating those components.
Well, if it's okay, I'll go first.
Please, yeah.
What balance looks like for me is just kind of maintaining that. I think it really starts with boundaries, honestly, and that's one thing. And to be honest, I don't have it all together, and I'm still working through this process of balance. But over the last couple of years, one of the things that I've really been kind of honing in is kind of setting those boundaries, what I can do and what I can't do, and understanding your priorities dictate your decisions. So my priorities in the seasons, my decisions need to be along those lines. So and I had to really kind of shift my focus to, all right, for this year, I'm going to focus on building my podcast, and that's going to be one of my goals. I'm going to focus on making sure I spend more time with my family. And it's all about making those priorities and just making the decisions. What I say, making daily disciplined decisions equals success. So in order for you to get to where you need to be, you have to make disciplined decisions each day. So for me, it's constantly putting in parameters or boundaries, such as, I want to stop working, my full-time job at 5:30. That's the last person I need to be closing my laptop at 5:30 in order to kind of decompress and kind of spend that time with my family, as well as to go into my other entrepreneurial efforts after they get, settled, have that bedtime regime. So for me, balance looks like, definitely investing in myself. And because I realize if I'm not investing in myself, then I can't be the best person I can be for my family. And what that looks like is self-care. For me, self-care looks like the gym regularly and seeing a therapist on a regular. And I think, and that's one of the things that I've really been big on the last couple of years, because, coming into the pandemic and just kind of learning more about myself and realizing some of the traumas and the places that I need to be healed from, I had to start with myself. And when I invested in myself and really kind of put myself first, then things begin to fall into place, and a balance comes into place. Now, balance, it's never 50-50. I feel like it's always a fluctuating scale of how you are dealing with life and life terms and different things. So that's how I would kind of define balance in an abbreviated version of that. I mean,
that's good. I like the fact that you said it's not always 50-50. I mean, the definition says it's an even distribution of weight, enabling someone to remain upright and steady. So sometimes, depending on what that situation is, it might be, 70-30, but believe it or not, even though it's 70-30, it still gives you that 100, and you're still finding yourself to be able to stand up right. Anything that's going to take you under, you got to reassess or realign it to another place, or maybe just take it off your plate because it wasn't yours to carry. But that's another discussion. Apostle Coates, any
well, ditto on everything he said and you're saying. I have this saying that I coined over the years that says, I can always have a full menu, but not always a full plate for me. For me, it's picking what goes on the plate daily, not just seasonally because things change, things happen. Some things require more of your attention today than you expected to give it. And you've got to be prepared to put it on the plate, but then move something off the plate. I've never been a fat guy. I've always been a thin guy, but it's always been because the plate's always been proportional. And I feel I try to use that same theory with balancing. And that is, always have lots of options on the menu. That's why people go to a restaurant. You got all these options. But then what goes on the plate is what matters. Just like when you've eaten too much and you feel like you ate too much, I try to put just enough of each on a plate so that I'm getting it in. I'm getting it in with whatever I need to be about at the time. And for me, balance is having a daily to-do list for me. Very important because I can always put down what I want to accomplish. And that looks great. But then I found over the years, I've become more and more realistic about how much I can accomplish. And so less is on the plate daily than used to be 20 years ago. Less is on the plate, but more gets done. And that's because balancing is not just a one-man thing for me. I have to also consider all of the people that touch my life on a daily basis. I touch their life on a daily basis, trying to make sure that we all understand my goal at the end of the day is to be all God wants me to be and live out my full life. And so sometimes I have to remind others of that because sometimes I work with people who are workhorses. They constantly pushing the pedal. And I'm saying I did that 25 years ago. I have the privilege now at 56 that I don't have to do that. 25 years ago, I had to sew for everybody. Now I choose who I'm sewing for because if it's going to stress me, I don't want to deal with you because I want to enjoy what I do, not just make money, but enjoy life. That's so important at the end of the day. That there's enough for me, for my wife and my kids. They're not the end of the day. They're part of the day. We have changes all the time. The kids had to be out of school. Wife had to go back. And, that's some of the opportunities that we have of being in business that you can carve out space and do what you need to do at home, and I've learned that space away from everything shows me just how well everything is running without me in the first place. How well it does without me is a sign of how well I've done at putting things in place.
That's so good. That's really good. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I would just chime in back onto the to-do list. I would 100% agree with the to-do list when it comes to and one of the things that he mentioned, Apostle mentioned, is that kind of limiting your to-do list. That's one of the things I struggle with. Like I will put 20 things on my list, and then when I only did half of them, I'll be upset because I only made 50% of my list. But when you trim down the most important things, the things that are essential for you to get done that day, it helped. It created a more positive experience because instead of having 20, I brought it down to 5 or 3 to 5. And I just work and I make sure I work diligently to complete those 3 to 5 things a day. And it'll help you get to what you need to do. So I definitely recommend if that's going to help you, use a to-do list, whether it's on your phone, pad. I'm old school. I still use the composition books from elementary school.
Yes.
I go to that every day. That's like my daily way to keep track of the things that I'm doing throughout the week and throughout the year. And so I usually get them on sale when it's school time. So I'm about to re-up when school time come around.
Right.
Years ago, Franklin Covey used to put out organizers as part of their company. And when I really invested in a good organizer, it helped me realize that everyday tasking is an A, B, and a C. It's what has to get done and what should get done and what might not get done. And as you reprioritize daily, I'm finding myself seeking God's guidance more when I even do my to-do list, more so than saying, Lord, help me get all this done today. I'm saying, Lord, help me to put on the plate what needs to be on here today, what doesn't need to be on here. And I'm amused at how God operates because he really does show you that except the Lord build a house, you labor in vain. If you sit up all night, get up early morning trying to beat the clock, you're not beating the clock, you're beating your body, and I'm finding more wisdom in saying this is the end for today and shutting down and realizing tomorrow will take care of itself. But will you be here tomorrow?
Right. That's so good. Yesterday I had given the scripture how God talks about listen, The trees, the birds, they don't worry about provision and what's going to happen tomorrow. Why are we worrying about whether we're going to make tomorrow? What's the provision? It almost takes away, it puts doubt and lack of trust that we say we have in God to meet our needs if we are not trusting him by worrying about it, right? And so that brings to another discussion about, even before I say that, Dwayne, Bishop and Dwayne, you tapped on, making a list, and it reminds me of SMART goals, right? And so there's this thing called SMART goals, and each letter stands for something. And one of the letters is A, which stands for attainable. And being able to make goals, not based off of only what you need to do, but is it attainable, right? Whatever that goal is it attainable? And sometimes we set ourselves up for failure, and then we put ourselves in a position of, oh my God, I didn't do the 20 things because we didn't make it attainable to start with. So making sure that we evaluate what we feel we need to do, and is it a need or is it a want? Is it a need or is it a want?
Yeah, I think that key is big. That part is big. Just kind of identifying the need and wants, because many times we get into a place in our lives where we want a lot of things. We want $1 million, but do we have we been good over our budget to manage $1 million? Right. And I think many times we the things that we want are not the things that we need. And we need to focus on being present where we are instead of focusing on what we don't have. And I think that's another lesson I had to learn, because for me, I always look at the big picture. I'm looking at the vision. I'm looking 3 to 5 years from now. Where do I want to be? And sometimes because I was so vision focused, that I would lose track of what's right now and not being present. And my wife had to get on me sometimes. She's like, be present right now. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what's going to happen next. It was just kind of like a general reminder, like, all right, I need to be present in this moment. And I can't really focus on the things that I can control. I can focus on what I can control. That's right. Myself. And, spending that quality time and just kind of being invested in that moment, so that I don't miss what I'm supposed to get out of that moment. Because oftentimes we can miss a lot of things because we're focusing on too many things at once.
That's good. So I want to read the definition of intellectual wellness, if you let me. It says intellectual wellness means striving towards good mental health, continued intellectual growth, and creativity in life. This can include continued learning, practicing problem solving, improving verbal skills, keeping abreast of social and political issues, reading books, magazines, and newspapers. I'd love to hear your view on that, and if you think something is missing. Because
let me say, the first thing that comes to mind to me is, don't make it a checklist every day that you do all of that. Because I know people who are chasing all that and have nothing to show for it. Like, they're always reading, they're always taking in, they're always going to workshops, conferences, motivational events. But what are they getting besides a whole lot of information? And depending on who you're listening to, it'll take you to the left, it'll take you to the right, it'll take you 5 steps forward. Everyone out here that's a motivational coach, things like that, they have a brand, they have a plan, and everyone says their plan is it. I think you have to do an a la carte. You have to put together something that gets you thinking, gets you planning, and gets you moving. That's critical. If you're just thinking, but you're not planning, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna just, all the wires in your brain gonna fuse out, right? But if you are thinking and planning, but never doing, then it's like procrastination. So you want to just kind of pick what works for you. And when it's not working, it's not working. It doesn't mean you're not working. It doesn't mean you're broke. It means it doesn't work for you. And I think it's very important to find out who you are as an entrepreneur, as an intellectual. What stimulates you? What gets you thinking? The person who gets up and tries to pray, read the word, go to exercise, do yoga, eat this and eat that, and go to work and do this, do that all in one day, you kind of maxed your day out with the plan to be well all over the place. Being well is not a one-day routine. It's something you learn over a lifetime. Your body will talk to you, your mind will talk to you, your mind will let you know. If you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and you haven't even been asleep for 4 hours, your mind something's going on, and you have to figure out, why am I in the bed but I'm not resting? And some of it is because you're busy trying to copy someone else's formula for success when that's the formula for them. You have to find out what works for you, and that's trial and error. And you don't just go get Oprah's latest book and say, I'm gonna read this book and I'm gonna be great. Okay, that worked for Oprah. Listen, you have a path that you got to travel, and some of the best tips are going to come from what you learn about yourself along the way, and then that you be okay with that you're okay with that. That's important.
Yeah, I would kind of echo what you're saying. Like it goes back to just like when we talk about that balance, just kind of knowing what to focus on in this particular time. Like, cause you like I like to use myself, be transparent as an example. Like at the beginning of this year, I made a vision board. I wanted to read 75 books. Now have I read 75 books in a year? Probably not. Was it a little ambitious? Probably so. But what I had to do was like, all right, well, what if I don't read the 75 books? What can I do? Well, I can take it one book at a time. Even if I do 12 books, that's more than what I did before. And I think it's all about just kind of setting realistic expectations, setting the understanding like, all right, I have to make a decision. All right, I might not be able to read the whole book in this week, but I can read 10 pages a day, and really kind of tackling it that way. It's like you're going to get there, but you can't rush the process. And many times, and because we feel like we may be behind with just learning this information, we want to catch up on lost time, that we want to speed up the process. But no, it doesn't work like that. The process is the process for a reason. It's meant for you to it's meant for you to experience that journey, but it's also meant for you to grow, mature in the journey, as well as getting the lessons and the applications from, maybe I listen to podcasts here, maybe I do, my meditation in the evening, because I know I'm not a morning person. Like as Apostle said, you have to find out what works for you. And that's based off of trial and error. Like I know for me, I get up in the morning, I go to the gym. Now, sometimes I can do my devotion before the gym. Sometimes it's a struggle because I'm just like barely making it to the gym. But I have to make that adjustments accordingly so that I can make sure that I'm getting what I'm feeding myself spiritually, physically, and also mentally. And I think that's a key part. Just making sure that you take the time to do what works for you, and not the cookie cutter plan that we hear so often in some, some of these social media advertisements, some of these coaching groups and different things that we're engaged in. We got to find out, all right, how can I apply this information into my life, and how will it work from my demographic and from my sphere of influence? I think if we can get to that point, then many of the issues that we are facing, we won't face it as much.
I agree with you, Dwayne. I think that people are chasing brands, because everybody, that's the big word now, branding. What's your brand? What's your brand? And I've found, I've been sewing 39 years, and I know my brand. I know, who I am as a designer. I know who I am in that sense, but it took time to figure that out. And the more I look at everyone else, the less I see in myself. I think sometimes we put so much trust in the image that other people put in front of us that we think it's supposed to be the standard, when, the best you might be a heavier but healthy you. The best you might not be, slim, thin, and whatnot. It just may be a heavier you, but it's the best you. And the best you is intellectually well. They're well up here, and this piece that controls it all, the brain, as a man thinketh.
So it's
I finally made my way back to the gym consistently, and I'm loving it. But I'm loving the gym because I'm there for a different reason now. I'm not there because my goal is to lose my gut. although I'm losing it, and I love that. My goal is not to lose my gut. My goal is to start my day as healthy as I can, so that with all I do throughout the day, I know that exercise is so vital to me having a great day.
Yeah.
And so I love exercising now because it starts me off to a successful full day. Whatever I've got to face, I've got good natural energy to face it. Not Red Bulls, none of that stuff. I've got natural energy that comes from the endorphins my body releases. And it also has taught me trust in God, that if you go to the gym and just take that solid hour, and don't tell your trainer, don't tell me till the hour is over, and focus on you, it makes you trust God for the rest of the day. Because if you're not okay, nothing else is going to work well if you're not okay.
Yeah.
If you're not okay up here, if you're not okay in your body, I don't care how you push the gas pedal, you're only gonna get but so far because you out of gas.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I think that is a big piece, right? Like we started yesterday, we were talking about emotional wellness, and a big portion of emotional wellness is what's going on in your mind and in your brain and in your intellect and in your, what's happening here. So often, not only is it because people are chasing a brand, Apostle, I also believe it's because of what people believe about themselves. And sometimes we are so busy measuring ourselves up with what we feel we lack. And so therefore we chase a brand to measure ourselves to be, which is why so many people get in trouble with Facebook, because they're believing what they see based off of what they feel they're lacking. And so we have to reevaluate how we see ourselves and then change the goal. Right, Apostle, you talked about I go to the gym now. It's different. Before it was for this reason, and now I can honestly say I'm going and I'm loving it because I changed my purpose.
Yeah, because if you keep quitting at something, either you're not supposed to do it or you're approaching it the wrong way.
Yeah.
That's my theory on that. That you if you keep quitting, there's a reason why you keep quitting. And it's not usually someone else. It's usually something going on within yourself that maybe it's something you don't even feel fulfilled doing. I feel fulfilled now. When I walk out of the gym, halfway through the workout, I'm like, Jesus, help me. But when I walk out of the gym, I get the results because I'm putting the work in. And then I remind myself every time it's put the work in, but you're going to have the great results at the end of the day. And so that intellect, that whole piece, I think it's all tied together to your thoughts, your diet, your food, everything. It's all part of it. It all works together. To be successful in business, you can't eat fast food every day as part of your routine. Something is going to go lacking, or going to have an excess of something because you are trying to keep fueling when it may be just not doable that way.
Shanta wrote plan, action, set goals, evaluate. I think that's so key. Right. When you're talking about emotional wellness, we should be doing this on a regular basis. What is our plan that we're working on? Let's take action to that plan. Let's constantly set goals and let's evaluate everything that we said prior to. I think sometimes we miss the mark because we may not evaluate. Maybe we plan, but we're not evaluating that plan. It is so key. And here's another piece. Whatever it is that you're planning and you're setting goals, do take the time to read up on it. I recently was informed that I needed to have a medical surgery done. And, doctors will tell you, well, just this is what you need to have and this is what it is and take this medication. If you don't take the time to research and learn about what's being told of you, you may find yourself getting to Apostle's point. This may not be the best for you, right? It may not be the way that you need to go. Now, granted, if there's when we talk about medical, please take this with a grain of salt with what I'm saying, because if you need to and do it. But in this case, I did some research and learned if I start taking this medication, it's going to be a problem over here. If I do this surgery, it's going to be something over here. But I did learn about what it is and what this thing is that they are saying is a challenge for me. But now I also can equip myself with what else can I do naturally? What other foods do I need to change? What are the, things? So I think you have to take the time to educate yourself on whatever that thing is. Now I would love to hear, well, Brandy says that I think the best tool that we keep repeating is personal accountability. It is the soft skill that isn't often discussed, but it is the soft skill that employers want most without requesting it. That is really good. Brandy, we are going to actually come to those who are not necessarily looking at what is the word I want to say, fellas? Entrepreneur. They're not starting their own jobs, or they have their own businesses, but I do want to tackle those that are working for someone. But before we go there, I'd love to hear a little bit. Apostle, I'm going to pick on you. If you mind sharing, how did you know, or what led you to start your own business? Right? We hear a lot of phrases when people, I want to, especially when you deal with adolescents and young adults, I'm gonna start my own business, but we don't really count up the cost, what that means, right? What led you to a place of starting your own business? Did you fall into it? Did you start doing it and then thought, oh, this is exactly what I did? Or did you always know you wanted to do that?
So let me just say that I started my own business at the age of 11. I want to make that very clear. I was a very talented musician. And as a result, I was in demand and it became my job. I never had to work in any company because I always worked for churches all of my life, all of my childhood and teenage years, all the way through till I started pastoring at 28. So I honestly believe what led me to start or call it business is that it's consistent. It is providing a source of income on a regular. It is something I'm skilled at, and it would make no sense to have these skills and it not work for me. Now, given that was 30 some, almost 40 some years ago. So the mindset of musicians today is a little different and the pay scale is different. But for me, it was recognizing you have something that you're passionate about, that you love doing, and it just happens to also be a very good possible source of income. So calling it officially a business meant filing paperwork in some cases for the clothing design. It also meant learning more about my trade, going to school, perfecting it, learning new skills, things of that sort, following the trends. And I would say the passion for it drove it. Because sometimes when you start a business, a lot of people don't know that starting a business doesn't make you wealthy. Sometimes starting a business means you pour as a church mouse for a long while, and you got to have passion that drives you to want to do the pieces that you don't want to do. I personally don't like doing taxes. I personally don't like doing all of that stuff, but I have actually learned to do well with a lot of it because it's part of the deal. It comes with being in business. And if you're going to be in business and stay in business, to me, you're always evaluating, is it still worth it calling it a business or is it a hobby?
That's good. That's so good. And so all of those things you said are very good ways to assess if it's a hobby, right? Because a hobby will come and go. I may not feel like doing my hobby, so I don't do it. But your business, I think one of the key things you said is that passion will drive you. Passion pushes you past where your feelings don't. I don't feel like doing it, but passion pushes you in a position that you're going to do it regardless. You're just compelled to.
Right. And I don't want to say it's all about making the money either, but you do need money to survive. And when you're strapped for money, it can really weigh heavily on everything, your family, everything you're doing. It can really be a negative impact on that. And so I think that business has money as part of its component. So you can't be in business without talking about the money portion of it. And, a lot of people love to do things, but they may not admit that it's robbing them. It's tearing them apart. It's tearing their family apart. I love at the end of the day that although sometimes I've got to be away from the family, working some late hours, like during prom season, but there's nothing that we want for. I can make sacrifices, but if I had no money on top of all of that, we might have a little problem. If there's nothing to being taken care of, bills are always paid, everything's going well, but then sometimes you're absent too much. And that's something you deal with business. Is it something that you can do that your wife or your husband is okay with, or was it something you should have done single? There's a lot of things. When I got married, I had to think about what I do as a business, the church, even as business, as a pastor. I'm the key man. So, my involvement, how much more time am I needed there? Will that impact my marriage? How will that affect my marriage? Because if everybody's unhappy, but you making money, it does not mean that you are your best you.
Sure, that's good. Mr. Dwayne.
For me, why I got started in business, or why I started a business, really out of, I started my first business ideally because I was bored. If I'm going to be honest, and during the pandemic, it was like, there are so many ways to add some additional income. So I was just trying to figure out some ways to do that. What I thought was a joke has kind of evolved into something that is going to be much more than I could ever imagine. And I think that was one of the main reasons. And then as I start to learn about what it takes to run a business, like I started off with wanting to do a t-shirt business, but and it worked well for a little bit, but it was like, well, why am I doing this? Why am I, is there something more than just t-shirts? And then I realized, like, I wanted to create as we talk about, going to create a brand. And with that brand, what it's meant to inspire, it's kind of, it's meant to help those get to where they need to go. It's called Forward. So I want to help people move forward. How I'm going to help them move forward? Through inspiration, innovation, influence, and impact. So my goal is to build a business that will help people move forward in those particular areas. And that's kind of how it came to me. It started off as like, all right, let me just try to do something. I'm home. My creativity juices are flowing. So let me see what I can create. And I created a brand which kind of morphed into what it is now. It's called Forward, where, it deals with inspiration, innovation, influence, and impact. And part of that, comes through the coaching and the therapy. And eventually, I'll build it out to the point where there'll be I'll have some technology things, some innovative things through that way. I just want to build a system not only from that will support itself, but help support my family. So that was the first business that I created. The second business I created out of, I was watching a podcast. It's called Earn Your Leisure. And they really kind of emphasize business owners and just try to how you can earn your leisure. And one of the ways was kind of renting cars off an app called Turo. So, I found out about the app. I looked it up. I was like, oh, cool. Let me try it out first. I had rented a car off there, but I said, let me try it out. So I had a car that, was paid off, and I put it on there Wednesday. It was booked for that weekend by Thursday. And I was like, okay, this is promising. So, I continued to kind of work through that, created an LLC because I wanted to take advantage of all the tax benefits that come with owning a business and understanding the deductibles and all that. So that's kind of like was my mindset for creating the business. And what I'm really using it for is to kind of build not only build another additional income, but build a foundation for my children so that they don't have to experience some of the things that I had to go through with the whole going into the debt with student loans and understanding what home ownership is and really talking about finances. I've really been big on talking about finances with them and just kind of showing them the journey that it's not easy. You guys have it good, even though my kids, they share rooms, but you still have it good because it could be worse. But it's just trying to really build that foundation for them, and that's the reason why I started business. Number one, I heard about all the tax benefits from starting your own LLC. And number two, I wanted to create a side income. Eventually I wanted to replace my main income so I could do more
Sure.
like community outreach. Like I want to get into coaching, like football coaching and different things like that, and really invest more time into my family. So it's really a means for me to kind of take back some of my time so I can invest more into my family. So that's kind of how I got started with my business.
So it's interesting that you talked about the children piece, because for me, when I started working for myself, well, in my business, mine was to have legacy. And so I'm still working on building out my business so that when I am gone or when I'm done, I can pass it down to my generations to say, okay, take this family business on and take it to the next, take the next leg of this out. And that they will never have to want. Now, granted, it may not be what they want to do now, but if I build a strong enough foundation on it, whether my grandkids have it is something that they will have, that they can now push forward or always have employment or always have a way, that we talk about teaching a person how to fish instead of giving them a fish. I don't want to just give you the money because I can make money. I want to teach you how you can be better and do things differently and another way, which goes also to, people who have young adults or children who's not, maybe I'm not college savvy. Stop pushing. You're going to go to college. I'm going to spend these thousands of dollars for you to go to college to flunk out because that's not where you want to go. Maybe they want to start a business, pour into them, teach them the foundations of what that means. Look it up. There's so many resources out there that you can learn about an alternative way, and teaching that adolescent or that young adult another way doesn't mean that they don't do something, but maybe it's not the way that you went, right? And so as parents, we're so big on, you're going to go to college and you're going to get a college degree, and that just might not be it for them. So that's really big.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because once I like with my business, it's titled Forward, and I realize how it all comes into play. Like, because my idea or my goal is that for each of my children to take over one aspect of the Forward business. So one person will take over the inspiration, one person will take over the innovation. Like I have a son he loves building Legos. So I'm, in my mind, that sounds like he's very going to be a creative. So he's going to be an engineer. One son that has, really, he has a real good personality to be so young. So he might be the influencer. And then, the innovator, the inspiration, influence, my daughter, who really loves cheerleading, the impact she can have being an African-American cheerleading coach that African-American girls don't often see. So, my vision for the business, that they each take one aspect of it, if they want to. I'm not pressuring them to, but I just want to set them up so that they'll have a space to fall back onto if something else doesn't work out the way they want to. And they can kind of, make it their own and grow it as well. And I think that also contributes to the legacy piece as well.
What do you guys do to, when we're still talking about intellectual wellness, what do you do to empower yourselves, right? We can talk about business all day long, but you have to be pouring into yourself. What do you do to pour into yourself where you feel like, I feel fed? What is it for you?
For me, it's a combination of things. It's my devotion. It's, Bible study, but it's also the books that I'm reading, podcasts that I listen to. I find myself not listening to much radio anymore. If I'm not listening to a podcast, I'm listening to an audiobook. So it's always, and one of my, like my core, things that I've been listening to in this season is really like financial books, just kind of learning more about financial leadership, training books. So those kind of been my two core. I mean, of course, the Bible, but those are like my three core that I kind of rotate through. I'm going to be listening to something financial, something that deals with leadership. I might pick up something that has something to do with business, and definitely something that kind of speaks to my spirituality and to help me kind of, round out the whole crew. Because I do believe you have to have a holistic view when serving and working in the kingdom, so that we can reach people outside of the four walls of the church, which sometimes I think we forget about.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the exact same thing. Your day sounds like my day. It's ongoing.
Hmm.
It's not something I have to tell myself to do. It's something that I thrive to do and I need to do daily. I don't feel right if I'm not listening to coaching and folks who have already done it. That's the piece for me. I need in my circle what motivates me are the people who've already done it,
Hmm.
because I feel like I'm wasting time to talk to someone who's not done it and is telling me how to get there. It's like, how are you going to tell me to get there? You haven't done it. That to me is a waste of time for me. I like to be surrounded by people who have and speak into my life that have done it, because they can identify with some of the things that I maybe can't put a handle on what it is that I feel, or if I'm feeling stagnant and then I'm listening to someone who has done this and been there and they understand why I might be feeling like this. And I really take a lot from that versus spending a lot of time with just folks who aren't driven,
Mm-hmm.
aren't purpose driven, aren't entrepreneurial in their thinking. For
Mm-hmm.
me, those are the people I serve, not the people that necessarily pour into me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and I'm not saying that to say everybody in my life gets served, but
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that everybody has to have
Mm-hmm.
a circle that is specific to your needs and that they identify and know you sometimes better than you know yourself.
Hmm.
I think that's very important because in my life, being a pastor, being a leader of so many different groups, most people are usually taking information from me. And
Mm-hmm.
if they even had something to offer me that
Mm-hmm.
they may not feel they have it. A lot of times people
Mm-hmm.
bless me and don't realize it when they
Mm-hmm.
share certain things, but they don't feel because of my position that they have something to offer. So sometimes I look for people in my life that aren't intimidated,
Mm-hmm.
that know when there's something I need, and they don't feel like they're hesitant to bring that because I'm very receptive.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Can you that leads to a question that I have that I always struggle with sometimes when you say finding people. Number one, your circle I think is huge, but mentorship. You know, people say a lot of things. Oh, you want come talk to me? I'll yep, absolutely. Oh, I know about this type of business. Come on, let's anytime you ready, I'm here. And then you say, okay, I'm ready. Okay, yeah, we'll set something up. People will oftentimes, I guess people mean well, but they're not always as open to pour into someone else. Or it's hard to find someone that has the time and the tenacity to pour into someone. Thoughts around mentorship?
I think mentorship is crucial to any area of your life.
Yeah.
I do believe, like, we should have somebody who we're mentoring, somebody who we are, somebody who's mentoring us, and somebody that we're mentoring. So it should always be a continuous process.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But I think what it becomes, it's an investment, and it can't be just one sided. And I think people think when you get a mentor that you're only supposed to receive, but you
Right.
have to pour back into your mentor just
Sure.
as like they pour back into you. What and how y'all determine that what
What that
that
looks like.
relationship, what that looks like is how you it's how you determine it, but it has to be a reciprocal relationship. It
That's
can't be
right.
something where I'm just constantly pulling from you because I need, but I have to be investing in you so that you can invest in me. And I think for me, that's the key lesson or the key point of any mentorship, that, that I'm giving as much as I'm taking. Because the
Yeah.
person is probably, if they're a mentor, they have other opportunity, they have other things, other obligations that they're pouring into. So why am I going to continue to take from that person when they're investing in me and taking time away from their family or their ministry to speak to me and to help uplift me to the point where I need to be? So it's a matter of making sure it's a reciprocal relationship and making sure that you're really ready to invest in that relationship, and it not be something that you just use as a title or use as some form of greeting, but that you actually truly mean it, and you're actually really ready to do the work. If you're not ready to do the work, don't waste nobody's time and ask them to be your mentor, because you're going to have to do something to maintain that relationship, and it can be whatever you can get from that person.
That's so true. And I was just thinking as you were talking, Dwayne, for me, also, I've found in life that people who want to be mentored, you got to kind of prove that too. Sometimes you need to chase the mentor, literally not stalk them, please understand, but you have to put yourself in their presence enough and figure where you fit. Because
Mhm.
oftentimes if they see you, they don't know where you fit until you fit. And then they see you as, you know what, I see myself in you when I was your age. I'd like to spend some more time with you. Well, then you don't just sit there and say, well, give me your schedule. Then, it doesn't work that way. It means you still make it a convenience to put yourself in the place where you can be seen wanting to be mentored. And
Mhm.
then be patient, because it takes, mentoring is a lifetime commitment, in my opinion. Real true mentors are people that you always can look toward. But at some point in your life, there ought to be a reward that they see when they see you. They see that the mentoring paid off, that
Mhm.
it worked out. The other piece for me with mentoring is that you should not want someone to show you how to do your trade or your skill. That's what school is for. That's what all of the other stuff, giftings and all that's for. I feel a mentor works more specifically on your attitude, your character,
That's
your
good.
level of integrity, the tough subjects that we don't like to talk
Good.
about.
That's good.
I've mentored for many, many years, and the ones that fall apart are the ones that can't handle constructive criticism. When I
Mhm.
say you need work, not your gift, but you need work.
Mhm.
And then that's when you see, if a person is really serious about mentoring. Because here's the deal, you got to get somewhere you never been.
Yeah,
How do
Mhm.
you know when you're there?
that's good.
Someone has to tell you you've arrived.
Yeah.
Don't tell yourself. When you tell yourself, you're fooling yourself. If you I see a lot of people do this on Facebook. They praise themselves all day long. And I know that they don't believe what they're saying. They
Mhm.
want somebody else though to say it.
Validated.
Right,
Hmm.
to validate it. Well, listen, just be it, become it, become it. I remember putting something on Facebook. I said, listen, you don't have to toot your own horn. Just drive down the street. People will know if it's you. They'll toot
Mhm.
for you. They'll know it's you.
Hmm.
Just drive. Don't keep tooting your horn. Don't keep saying you humble. Don't keep saying you're this, you're that. That's something that others will recognize in you if you're
Hmm.
really about that. But if
Hmm.
you got to keep saying it, then maybe it's not there.
Yeah.
Right. And I think to go back to what you said, you got to ask the question: how can I bring value to that person?
Mm.
Not what that I think that should be the first question before what we can get from them. And I
Yeah.
think if we go at it with that mindset, it'll be a much more fruitful and productive relationship because you want to bring value before you get something out.
And actually, that's a principle in business, period, right? Like I remember I was talking to someone and so in real estate, I'm like, well, I want to build out my providers, right? Like those that I
Mhm.
do lenders and title company and things of that nature. And oftentimes I found myself giving. Hey, I have a client, I have a client, I have a client. It's like, well, I deal with these vendors all the time. Why isn't anybody? I need to now reevaluate or reassess. If it can't be reciprocal, there's no need for me to keep giving you business and you don't send me clients. Like,
Mhm.
what is that about? Right. And so it took someone to tell me that. Tanya, you never go to a new vendor without giving them something. Have something to offer, and you should also be expecting that same. You don't sell yourself cheap because you're giving. We got to figure this thing out, and
Mhm.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yes, with mentorship, but business period.
Now, I can honestly say there are times for me that the people that are in my life to receive really don't have something to give me. But by me freely giving to them what they need, God puts people in my life that can sow into what I need. And
Mhm.
in that sense, so I still get it back. But
Mm-hmm.
it's just I look for it to come from a different source so that sometimes I don't want to put the wrong expectation on
On
people.
somebody who can't meet it.
Right, right, right. Like at my
Mm-hmm.
age, at 56, now for me, it's more about giving back, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily looking for it in return. Because
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
feel like I'm at the age and at the point in my life where I should have enough to give.
Sure.
That
Mhm.
that I'm just giving.
Sure.
and then I can choose, am I giving under the right circumstances? Sometimes I should be giving you a fish. I just give you a pole and you figure it out,
That's good.
and we'll see how serious you are about fishing, but then there are times that while I am giving to some who maybe don't reciprocate or see it, God reminds me, but I do have people in your life that will always sow into what your need is as well. So
That's
sometimes
good.
when I do for people, I say, no, I don't want you to do anything because I want what God has for me on a different level. I believe in
good.
God for something else
That's
that
good.
I know that person can't provide.
That's good.
It's kind of where my faith goes to work.
That speaks to motive. That also speaks to motive, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have some people say, I'll mentor you. And then here's the telltale of where the motive is. I did all this for you and you ain't blah, 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 blah. Where was the motive, right? What was your motive in doing it? So for some, we have to be careful. Even, you're seeking for a mentor, but maybe you don't need a mentor. Maybe you do, but you're not with the right mentor. So just being careful.
Or what you need mentoring on.
Exactly.
What does mentoring look like for you? Sometimes we shouldn't be saying what we need because we don't know all the time what we need. I think a good mentor knows what you need, and they can do an assessment and look at you and talk to you and get to know you and say, I believe this is what you need. And then you kind of got to be open to trust that process rather than say, well, no, that's not what I need. Well, if you already know all of that, then do you need a mentor?
That's so good. Oh, that's good. Yeah, being flexible. Flexibility. Oh, Lord Jesus, people aren't flexible sometimes. They think they got
and when you're in a position to be mentored, you're also submitting yourself.
Of course.
You're submitting yourself. You are humbling yourself for a process that sometimes you don't know that you're going to be in for what you're going to be in for. People always talk about being humble. Humble comes from also the place of humiliation, being made abase, being made low, and sometimes in a mentor-mentee relationship, if you listen to the wrong people, they'll make you think that mentor is out to get you. But someone that already has is not intimidated by you to have it to get.
Right.
It's just the process.
Yeah. That's good. All right. I just want to shift gears real quick and hear your thoughts on those people who are currently working for an employer, right? For an employer, right? You have some people who desire to start a business. You have some people who are trying to figure themselves out. But the bottom line is they're still working for an employer. At some point, and again, your journey. So I'll say for me, I still do work a job that I call provision, right? And I have my business, which I call promise, right? And there are some people who are only working provision. Some people are working only promise, and some people are working both. Talk to us all about your thoughts on, Bishop, you spoke to it, character, right? When you have your own business, your character is going to come into play. Your integrity is going to come into play. How much you will, this concept. I don't want to work a full-time job anymore because I want to start my own business, and I can start when I start on my own. And anybody that has any kind of business whatsoever knows you work doubly hard, doubly long, and some days you're scratching your head like, wait, what am I doing? So any guidance, information, or words of encouragement to those that are still working for an employer, but have a desire to start a business, when to start a business, anything.
So I'll kind of jump in real quick. I think, if you are planning to start a business and you have a still employer, work for that employer until your side business can double your monthly expenses. And until then, you're going to work. What does that mean? That means make sure you give your 9 to 5 your best, and then after your 9 to 5, you give your business even more, because that's what it's going to take to build whatever it is that you have, in order to kind of build it. But it also really depends on your goals, because many people don't want, for me, I'll say for me, I want my side business. I want my businesses to kind of, match or double the income, that I bring in on a monthly basis, to the point where if I want to get up and say, I don't want to work my full-time job anymore, I have that option. But until you get to that point, you got to work both of them until until it gets to the point where you want. Some people just want the extra cash and extra money. I know for me, I want the freedom. I want the time freedom. So that means I got to put in the time now and sacrifice now in order to get to where I want. So from 5 years from now, I can say, all right, my two businesses are, covering my bills and covering an addition to that. And I'm in a good place to say, all right, I can kind of decrease from that, But I know for me personally, I probably won't ever stop doing, because my full time is counseling or therapy. So I'll always be needed because as African American men, there are not too many African American men therapists out there. Well, they are, but they're almost considered unicorns per se. So it's like, I'll always do it, but I'll just do it on a lesser level because my businesses and my passion projects have really been built up enough to supplant my income and to allow me the flexibility to choose what I want to do. And I would encourage anybody who's like really deciding to continue to do. Yep. Just take your time and continue to do that until your business gets to where you need it to be. And really we talked about this before, have the patience. Understand them first couple of years are going to be probably the roughest years. You might not get any money back, but if you stay consistent and stay disciplined and stay committed to your goals, then you'll be able to achieve everything that you aspire to achieve.
I wanted to say, I wanted to give a scripture because you spoke to work your 9 to 5, whatever your shift is, your job to the best of your ability. Colossians 3:22 says, you are servants who are owned by someone. Obey your owners. Work hard for them all the time, not just when they're watching you. Work for them as you would for the Lord, because you honor God. When we obey the authority figures in our lives, we are ultimately serving God. Another way of saying that is work as if you're working unto the Lord. Yes, you may not like that job, but it is providing provision for you right now. Yes, you don't like your boss. They get on your nerves. Unless the Lord tells you to quit, I don't advise you just take this job and you know what to do with it. That might not be the best or wise decision to move forward, but work it to the best of your ability, because God will honor that. And in the time that comes, in its designated time, you will know when it's time to shift out. Apostle, was there something you wanted to say before I jump in?
Yeah. I'm just kind of looking from a different angle.
Okay.
One thing I would say is look at the job you're working and what does it have to do with your future. If you put a lot of time in a company, you have 401k investments, things of that sort, finish it out. Look at what are the penalties of getting out early? Are they offering an out early? That might be your answer. A lot of companies are changing up now. Things have changed, over the years. And I think the other piece that you have to look at is your wellness, working that job. If that job is, in fact, really contributing to your downfall physically and mentally, you may have to make a decision that's for your peace of mind, that, this can't be bought. And you may be happier making less working for yourself than making more working for someone that every day never appreciates what you bring. It may be that you need to be a risk taker. I'm going to just be honest and say, sometimes with running a business, you have to think about being a risk taker. Okay. In the world we live in, nothing is guaranteed anymore. A government job, you don't know, the government's going to shut down. So everything you're invested in with the understanding that you could take a loss. And I think that needs to be your mindset about whether you're going to roll out or not. How much of a risk are you willing to take? Is it just involving you? Is there a spouse involved? Are there children involved? Will this impact everybody else? And how will it impact them? I think they need to be a part of the whole decision-making process because it's nothing like having everybody's support, even if you're going to be without a job, because you might be happier being home because your wife is or your husband's agreed to hold up the fort for a year, and that gives you some time to really think. The other piece I was going to say is while you're working that job, you need a business plan for your business. This is what a lot of people don't want to do. They got a great idea, but let me tell you one of the things a business plan is going to do. It's going to let you know is what you want to do really going to be worth it or not. Sometimes we want to bank on something we always dreamed of becoming, and now it doesn't have any relevance in today's world. I always wanted to be a computer operator. Well, now the computers you were talking about operating now, kids are doing it better. So is that still is it still valid? Is it viable? So I think you have to do your research about what you want as a business. Is it saturated with people doing it? Is it something that not a lot of people are doing? Does it require a certain skill set? All of this will help you determine how long you need to stay on that job, where you have a set, definite check coming in, and you may need to go back to school to invest so that when you open the business, you have the certifications or whatever that may call for. So I think you got to be willing to evaluate your risk, to see, what kind of risk taker are you? Are you okay if you don't get paid for a while? Are you okay? Is your household all right if you don't get paid for a while? Because it may be your spouse may say, baby, I've been waiting for you to quit that job.
Mm-hmm.
I got us, but you like scared. You're the one saying, but no, they've been telling you all this time. Look, the stress is killing our marriage. It's the kids can't stand. When you walk through the door, everybody goes into fasting and prayer. In comes whatever this demon is. You leave out great, you come home the worst. It may be in everybody's best interest for you to start the business, but then you got to talk about the business plan. How much money is this? All of that is important too. Their risk. My one of my businesses is expanding, and it's a $30,000 investment. Am I asking my wife to do that? Absolutely not, because it's something I'm willing to take a risk with, and what I'm risking to do won't hurt her or I or our plan. So if I lose it all, nobody has lost anything at the end of the day, and I feel pretty darn good that I took the risk on something I believed in. It's better than wondering all your life what would have happened had I taken the risk.
That's good. Living with guilt or resentment for not
Or
even
blaming everybody else for why you didn't go and do it.
That's so good. That's so good. Oh, I have one more thing I want to bring to the table and hear your thoughts on. So yes, as we already talked about, the pandemic has opened opportunities for a lot of people to create businesses and to start new opportunities.
Yes.
Apostle, you yourself have even started one around the pandemic with your masks, and how that took off. But then there are some that have taken the opportunity to use the pandemic to create businesses, but maybe have not walked the walk. Apostle, you talked about that. I don't want to go to nobody that has not experienced where I'm trying to go. So, for example, we're talking about intellect and business. Maybe they started a bit. They become a business coach, or maybe they're imparting, and this is tied in part and parcel to the mentoring and the business. How would you what would be something that you want to offer to people if they're reaching out to people? Because you got a lot of life coaches now, a lot of business coaches. You got people who are coming up out the woodworks with these. How, if I am naive and I don't know, and Dwayne says he has this business, what would you tell somebody to ask for or to look for when reaching out to people who I may be naive to not know if they are credible or not?
Check their credentials. Look them up. See how long is the business in good standing. Are they legal? Are they registered? My brother's a therapist. I'm sure I can look him up. If he's a therapist, he is. It's gonna be where therapists are recognized. It's licensing credentials. Look up their business status, good business status. Ask them questions. So, how long you been in business, and what have you produced? You know, people ask me what I produce, they can go find it. It's on, you can Google it. You're going to see my companies. You're going to see, you can go to the Maryland Department of Assessment. You're going to see every one of my businesses in good standing. You're going to see my product line out there. You're going to see how I live, where I live, what I drive. You're going to see all these things that either are characteristics of a person in serious debt and denial, or a person who is living their best life. And I think that's the starting place. Don't be naive to just buy in. Go look them up, you know. And if they're really real about what they say they're about, they will love the fact that you ask questions. You know, I'm hyped when people ask me, how did I get to this or that? And what are you doing? I'm hyped about that because it's something I've worked hard to accomplish and I don't mind talking about it. But if I'm not the real deal, the real McCoy, you're going to know when I'm starting to shoot you stuff that ain't true, because it just doesn't settle with you. And these overnight successes aren't worth trusting anyway, because, you know, that's like fashion. Here today, you're in today, tomorrow you're out. You know, so what do you have that's long standing, that's been around, that people can check behind you and see what you really did produce?
Yeah, that's good. Sometimes people just don't know the right questions to ask, though.
But
right?
they're easy questions. They're the simple questions you ask when you go in a grocery store and you want to get a product off the shelf. Why are you buying it?
Yeah.
You heard about it somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
Or it's on sale. Is that because that can be the case? But sometimes what we get is what we get.
We pay for what we get, what we pay for. That's so true.
You know, I'm getting ready to send a whole lot of people to Dwayne. He might not ever get to work his business. He could be busy counseling, because he's right. He's you know, because I did counseling, but you know, I stepped away because it's not where my heart is. You know, but yet I know I'm needed. And sometimes when you deal with people, you have to really think about selfishly, what do you really want? And are they going to get you there or not?
Good.
You know, these people that say pay $89 and get this, this, and that. Well, if you've been to one of those, you've been to all.
Yeah.
Come on. They bring the motivational speaker on last. They bring the celebrity on last because they know you're going to stay all day. They bring all these people on. They made money, but they made money by you paying to come to seminars to hear about them making money. Exactly. And they sell a product. At the end of the day, they got a book. They've got a DVD. Yeah. And you need to buy it because that's what they do. They walk around and they tell people, this is the kind of energy I have, and this is the kind of energy you need. But the truth of the matter is the opportunity to make that kind of money is far and few. Yeah. You know, some people are one-hit wonders. And you have to ask yourself, am I in it to make, you know, I know people that jump from one job to the next, from selling one product, they're selling vacuums, then they're selling something else next week. And they want you to believe that that is going to get them where they got to go. It's not. If there's anything you can get out of that, it's the principles of how to sell something. The principles. But really, the truth of the matter is, you're 45 now, and you are still not settled on what you want to do.
That's good. Mr. Dwayne, anything, any final thoughts for this evening? I so appreciate you all. Before you guys actually give me final thoughts on tonight's topic, I want to highlight, again, for those who are watching, we will be here for the rest of the week. Tomorrow is financial wellness. So this is real good because we're talking about business, which ties right into the money. Join us. We have some amazing guests to talk from a financial perspective. And on Friday, we will talk about social wellness. But Saturday, somebody say Saturday. We will be actually in the house at Fresh Start, starting at 9:00. We will have 3 sessions, one on mindfulness, we're having a Zumba class. We will have someone to show us about juicing and have an amazing lunch, and vendors will be there. We are looking for everyone to show up. So Lottie Dottie and everybody, we want to see you there. So any final thoughts, Mr. Dwayne? I'm gonna start with you before I go to Apostle Coates.
No, I just echo on what Apostle said about check the references. I think that's at the most fundamental level. Like if you're looking for a mentor or somebody, you know, check their references. Actually talk to people who they work with. before you even sign up or really invest your time, your money, or anything else. That's kind of where I will lead with that. Just kind of make sure you check the references, and just really thank you all for having me on this to kind of share a little bit about what I do, and just kind of and kind of contribute to this platform as much as I have. So thank you again.
Dwayne, someone had mentioned they definitely want your information. So I'm sure this one person, along with several others, whether they're watching now or will be watching later, how can they find you? And say it slow because I'm gonna type it so it could show up.
So you can find me on all social media platforms as Dwayne Pate, or DWAYNE. Last name is PATEJR. You can just search me on all platforms. You'll find me on more specifically on Instagram, Facebook. I do have a YouTube page, but that's kind of geared towards my my podcast that I put out, and those. So you can check me on there. If you want to reach out to me, email me at dpatejr. That's DPATEJR @gmail.com. So any information regarding any of the businesses that I do, feel free to reach out to me there. And then I'll definitely get back with you in reference to your requests.
One quick question: Are you accepting clients for counseling at this time?
Right.
About several of your businesses, but are you doing counseling now?
Right now, no, because I'm about to be in a season of transition, so I have to figure out what this new position looks like. Sure. And then once I'm able to kind of finalize that, then I can kind of get back into opening it up and just kind of taking on more clients if possible.
Good to know. Awesome. Thank you so much. Apostle, any final thoughts for our watchers tonight?
Sure. I would just simply say every business has a life cycle. You won't always be prospering every day in business. Sometimes you're going to have seasons that your business seems like it is dried up and dead, but you have to, when you're passionate, you have to realize that those dead seasons are an opportunity to work on something else, so that you're ready for your next season. It's an opportunity to evaluate, to improve, to educate yourself, and gear up for your next season, because life cycle means just that. Just like it dies, it comes to life. Every year, the grass dies, and each year I never forget, I look outside in my house and these hostas have just popped up in a week, but it looked like they were gone, and they pop up every year. And you just have to know that realistic expectations for business, realistic expectations. If you don't know, talk to folks who do know, so you'll know you're not in a bad place all the time. It's just what you're going to do in that time when things aren't as productive. And thank you for having me on here as well. And Dwayne, but listen, I know you're not accepting clients, but I definitely got to get you on this conference I'm doing for Black men.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I will gladly participate in that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much. I so appreciate you both being here and taking the time. I pray that God continues to enlarge your territory and your creativity in your businesses, because it's needed. And sometimes I thank you also for even remembering that there are every business has a dry season, because this, by now I started worrying about my little ego. I was like, it's been a little bit of a dry spell this first quarter, but I got to come around. I'm about to come around. So,
and that's the benefit of having multiple businesses too. You got
true.
Multiple streams of income. Sometimes a dead season for one business is a really good season for another.
It's true. So true.
And you got to move with it.
I appreciate you all. Realistic business expectations. Again, for those that have been watching, stayed with us, we thank you so very much for being here with Worship and Wellness. Remember, we believe in biblical principles, but with practical steps. I've typed in some of the tools that have been talked. Go back, watch it again. Share, because sharing is caring. And remember, we will be here tomorrow where we're going to talk about financial wellness. Grab a friend, join us, and I look forward to seeing you. God bless everybody.
God bless.
And have a wonderful evening.
Have a good one.
Have a great one.